Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reader's Intrigue, where authors are going to read the first chapter of their book so that we can be intrigued and maybe find a new book to read. Get comfy, get cozy. Let's listen.
I'm Gerald Everett Jones, and Mick and Moira and Brad is my 13th novel. I've been a professional writer for most of my working life. I started working for publishers and writing business and technical books like Excel for Windows Quick and Easy. But who bothers to read computer books these days? My most successful nonfiction book has been How to Lie with Charts, which is still taught in some college courses and marketing and business math. These days, I mostly make stuff up, but my books are not all romantic comedies like this one. I did write a series of coming-of-age comedies, The Misadventures of Rollo Hemphill, starting with My Inflatable Friend. I'm the author of the Preacher Evan Wycliffe mystery series, which has won several book awards. As to Mick and Moira and Brad, if you're a fan of pop music and you're curious about what goes on behind the cameras, you should enjoy this one. Mick McGraw is an aggressive Hollywood agent who reps famous singers. Moira Halimi-Joubert is a headstrong criminal defense attorney who studied opera. Brad Davenport is an arrogant billionaire hedge fund manager who has a soft spot for dogs. Mick wants to make Moira a superstar, but she may have to dump Brad. What does the battle of the sexes look like when the combatants are equally matched and might actually like each other? Me three? The twisty plot takes you inside a big-time movie-land packaging agency as Mick's team scrambles to put together a stadium concert patterned on something like Beyonce's Renaissance tour. The superstar they've scheduled is canceled just 9 weeks before opening night. They need a totally new show theme and a new star. They think Moira can do the job. Chapter 1. The Century Club in West Los Angeles is about as exclusive as it gets. But Brad Davenport was showing a lack of aristo cool by waiting impatiently at the curb and frequently checking the time on his Rolex Oyster chronometer. One luxury vehicle after another pulled up and discharged its passengers. A Tesla Model X, a Bentley Bentayga, a Rolls Phantom, and even a vintage black stretch town car with limousine plates. Where could she be? Hadn't he impressed on Moira the importance of this meeting? She might think it was just another tennis date, but this time its purpose was strictly business. The whole afternoon, even to the drinking and dining later, if they were so lucky, would be a total write-off for McElroy Brothers partners. And then here came Moira in her not-so-late model Prius. She screeched to the curb, popped the door, grabbed the paper ticket from the valet, and deferred to him to park it. She was in business attire, a gray pinstripe twin set with a white silk blouse, and carried a mock designer handbag, a Gucci look-alike. She was breathless and gave him a peck on the cheek. I've just come from court, she explained. They drone on, you know. I really did try. He returned the peck, saying, why don't you quit that job? You keep telling me you hate it, defending lowlifes who you know are guilty. I mean, criminal defense, what's even the point? She explained, go for the jugular, show no mercy, take no prisoners. I'm doing right by the bad guys, which is sometimes more than they deserve. He bent to kiss her. He was a foot taller, proud of his lean stature, and at times like these, he lorded and made the most of it. Pulling away, he grabbed her bag and smiled. How about pasting on your sweet face? That's the one I'm in love with. Do you remember the point of this appointment? She nodded, catching her breath. The bother-alls, mixed doubles. He double faults and she has a weak backhand. They want to be club champions and we don't want to convince them otherwise. She smiled. I guess they want more friends, but they think they need trophies. She'd hoped he'd at least grin at her joke, but his expression went the other way. Tone it down, back off a notch. They don't need to know what you did at UCLA, and they certainly don't need to see it. She nodded in agreement. If I slip up and show off, please pretend it's a mistake. he counseled. Remember, it's the portfolio I want. Besides his university portfolio, there's the Bitsy Botherall Foundation. They want to put a new wing on Cedars. Where? There's no place to expand. What are they going to do? Knock down the Beverly Center? Hers was intended as another joke, but Brad wasn't in the mood. She couldn't believe he was serious when he replied, let's just say with that crowd, anything is possible. Moira's first serve to Malcolm hit the canvas tape at the top of the net, thwack, and bounced back onto her side. Perhaps rehearsing to be the good-natured loser, Brad called fault with a deprecating smile. On her second serve, Moira tried not to smirk as she tossed the ball over her head to meet the powerful whoosh of her overhead swing, delivering a cannonball ace to the far corner to the older man's forehand. He reached mightily, but not far enough, and swung on air. Moira was sure Brad had no clue how difficult it would be for a skilled player like her to fake an amateurish performance convincingly. This zinger had been for spite. In her mind, there wasn't much difference between underperforming on purpose and outright cheating. She deserved a feud like this, she told herself, as long as she was willing to keep her nefarious promise to Brad and go down eventually. But Brad called out as if the serve had missed the paint rather than landing squarely on it. The serve had been good, but neither of the Botheralls bothered to gainsay Brad's mistaken call. Love 15, Malcolm yelled helpfully. Okay, now Brad truly owed her one. Time to show she had the stuff. On her serve to Bitsy, Moira gave the racket a last-minute twist as she torqued the head to slice the ball smartly at the peak of her overhead swing. The shot was not aimed at a corner, but squarely down the middle of the zone and to Bitsy's weak backhand side. The woman might have had a sporting chance of making a solid return, but as the ball bounced, it took off crazily at an angle and avoided her swing entirely. Phew, did you see that? She exclaimed in amazement, the beads of sweat popping out on her upper lip. Brad gave a forced laugh, explaining to them, but directed to his partner, hey, sometimes those flukes work in our favor, right, babe? His expression said, don't do that again. 15 all, Malcolm called out. Server calls the score, Moira muttered as she walked back to the line. The other couple couldn't see Brad's scowl as his partner retreated back. And so it went for 2 sets on an air-conditioned indoor court on a working afternoon. Moira and Brad gave it up 2-6, and then more respectively 4-6. Moira had been tempted to make the second set more interesting, but she chose instead to double fault at match point when it was her serve at 4-5. If she hadn't muffed that serve, it would have gone 5-all, requiring Moira to fake a lot more flubs to make it come out eventually 7-5 for the Botheralls. And no one, especially not the visibly tiring older couple, wanted it to go 3 sets. Moira was proud, but she wasn't vain, and a deal was a deal. The Botherall's opinion of her actual skill wasn't worth the pointless extra effort. As they came off the court with smiles all around, Bitsy rested a comforting hand on Moira's waist and confided, you know, Mal and I practice all the time. You're a working girl, I know, and I bet if you put in more time, you'd have a killer game. Killer, yes. It consoled Moira to think that if Moira did manage to win their business, it was she and her unscrupulous boyfriend who had slain the unwitting Botheralls today. In the women's locker room, Bitsy was toweling off as Moira lingered luxuriously under the hot water. On this weekday, they had the stalls to themselves. It was usually only at moments like this, when her subconscious let loose, that Moira would break into song. She sang Ah, Forza Lui from the first act of Verdi's La Traviata. She'd admired the Jones Sutherland recording with Luciano Pavarotti. Moira's voice was more delicate than the famous divas, but she managed the full range of alto to soprano, including the nearly impossible high notes, just as capably as Sutherland had. From a tender age, Moira had sung opera even better than she played tennis, but she'd given up both when she'd committed to immersing herself in the law at UCLA. Singing was her joy and her liberation, but perhaps she felt she'd betrayed her talent. She kept it hidden, except in private moments like this. But this time she had an audience. Bitsy paused, pampering herself to listen intently. As Moira emerged from the shower, Bitsy tossed her a fresh towel, saying, "You've got a set of pipes on you, kid. Mal and I support the opera. His family had seats at Founders Circle from the beginning." Moira shrugged. "My coworkers dragged me to karaoke, but I won't let myself go on stage. I could chug a couple of margaritas, but then maybe I'd have no control and warble the high notes." And she chuckled. "Besides, there are no pop songs in my repertoire." Bitsy asked, somewhat rudely, "What's your background, dear?" Moira wanted to say why I'm from Los Angeles, but she was used to getting the question. Her answer was, "My father was Moroccan and my mother French. They told me to use her surname instead of his, so it's Halimi-Joubert instead of the other way around. He was Muslim. She's Catholic, so either way, I'm not permitted to do anything." Bitsy picked up on, "So your mother's still with us?" "That's right," Moira said. "We talk only occasionally because there's only so much guilt I can take." "And your father passed?" "Yes, it's been some years now. They emigrated to Los Angeles because he was starstruck with old movies. He started a chain of bookstores specializing in French literature. He did very well, but not because of the books." "I don't understand." "My mother told me it was after father was gone that there was a back room where they sold risque postcards and French letters." "French letters?" "The old gentleman's euphemism for condoms." But Bitsy only smiled, betraying her worldly knowledge of what men for generations have done who think they are fooling women. Still, in an admiring tone, Bitsy went on, "You know that serve of yours that bounced funny on the first set? You could learn to control that slice." She thrust out her hand to demonstrate, twisting her grip on the racket. "Do some exercises, build up the strength in your wrist. You could make it happen on purpose." She giggled and added, "Like when the old gal on the other side is winded and it's match point." Bitsy insisted on exchanging phone numbers. Moira decided she might like the woman given time. You can buy the paperback, Mick and Moira and Brad, wherever books are sold, and the Kindle is available on Amazon. And you can find out more about me, including all the books in my list, including with downloads of free review copies at GeraldEverettJones.com. Thanks for your kind attention, and carry on.
Thank you again to the amazing author that read us a story. And be sure to check out all the other amazing shows on RB Media. Till next time. Bye.